Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Girded with Truth. My name is Dwight, and yesterday I started a series called A Call to Violence. For those of you who are now catching up, our text is taken from Matthew chapter 11, verses 7 to 12, ending with the verse and the phrase where Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force." Quick recap, what we did yesterday is we just introduced three words, violent and violence. And those two words actually carry one word in them, which is common to both, which is force. Force in itself, actually, looking in the summary of what force means, it just means intentionally applied energy and or strength. So force there, with regards to violence, means that it's an act of forcing is violence, and the person who enacts that force is the violent person or violent, right? So the violent is an act of being, violence is a state of doing. So that's basically what we looked at there. So those of you who are looking at the comments or even listen to what we're saying with regards to violence, we're not talking about a malicious action or intent. We're just talking about applied force in a given sphere or in a given situation. All right? Today we're referring to accepting the call to violence. Life in itself is violent. At every stage of life, we actually find that things are violent around us, intentionally applied force and or strength. If we take at that time to look around, we just realize that. Let's take life in itself, for example, a seed. Let's take a mango seed. For the plant itself to come out of that seed, we know a mango seed is pretty hard on the outside, and the plant is on the inside. So it must intentionally apply force and or strength to burst its way out of that seed through the soil, then into the air. What about animals that lay eggs? The animals that are inside of the eggs must find their way outside of that egg. Eggs sometimes are hard shell, so they must break their way out of that into the open atmosphere. Mothers must push their baby out of their womb into the atmosphere itself. Intentionally applied strength and or energy. So life in itself is violent. For life to simply exist, we must constantly and intentionally apply energy and strength. For us to actually grow, it requires us to have intentional energy and strength applied. This principle is so common to us, it's even in the way we think. As we grow older, we move from the mindset of, I'm good with what I have, to, I want more. And sometimes, really and truly, is that wanting more that drives men to employ destructive tools in a violent quest for expansion. Of course, most times at the expense of someone else. Now, in fact, we can actually see it now with Russia and Ukraine, where they're expanding their territories at the expense of the Ukrainians. If we were to rewind the clock a few thousand years, we would find that the children of God were in that same violent quest, destructively I might add, to actually claim the land of Canaan. From the days of Moses until the book of Malachi, we find the children of Israel in a violent cycle to take the land, then they lost the land, then they regained the land of Canaan, all in that violent cycle over and over again. But the difference there is that God instructed them to do so. Now, we won't get into the concept of why would God instruct the children of Israel on a destructive quest for retaking the land of Canaan or taking the land of Canaan. That's in a different video altogether. But I'm trying to show you guys the point here that violence itself is not something that's uncommon or disconnected from the life of the Christian. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. Now, we do not live in the time of the children of Israel and the land of Canaan, where we literally have to physically go and take territories by force, physical force, swords, shields, tributaries, all the different weapons and whatnot. In fact, Jesus' birth and his existence here on earth actually hailed the flipping, so to speak, of the script with regards to violence, where we saw that the children of Israel actually enacted physical violence what Jesus wants us to do now is flip it. He wants us to enact spiritual violence. So the Old Testament gives us a blueprint to the physical violence and how we should approach our physical life with regards to violence. So what does that mean for us? When Jesus was sending out his disciples, he made a specific statement. He told them to cast out devils. Now the casting out there is not, hey Mr. Devil, how are you? How is your day? Is it good? Great. Would you mind leaving this person? Yeah, because you're not really welcome here. You're not supposed to be here. Would you mind leaving? No, it's not a polite way in which we do it. We have to cast them out. They force themselves into given situations legally and begin to enact certain things that they want to see in your life to pull you away from Christ and to send you to destruction. So in essence, what we have to do is cast them out the same violent way, or the way in which they force themselves into our lives, into our situations, is the way in which we must then apply that to cast them out. So accepting the call today does not mean that you have to go and see an idol, see a given situation, see a political leader doing something and enact physical violence to them, but it means we have to recognize spiritually what's happening in our life and then begin to enact that violence spiritually towards that given situation. So I say to you today, accept the call to violence. Why? Because it's in you. You were called to it. It's a part of you. It was practiced for you in the Old Testament. It was demonstrated to you in the New Testament. And it's now for you to employ that level of violence in your given situation. The territories that we currently live in, the situations that currently we are in, are all taken by violence, and it must be retaken through violence. So in closing, I say to you, take up your mantle. And that's what we'll be speaking about tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.